My name's Jaz. I'm a GP of 10 years. I'm a practice owner and I am also the Chief Medical Officer of the HotDoc as well. What do I do? As a GP, I see patients and my focus areas are mental health, particularly men's mental health. And as a CMO, my role is to provide advisory, clinical governance support to HotDoc and help it to grow from a clinical perspective. And as a practice owner, I do a whole bunch of things that I'm still learning on the job, right? And and then I think that's my avenue for crazy personal and professional growth.
Yeah, amazing. It's great to speak again. We had to look it up before we started recording here. Episode 121 back in 2021, we spoke on the Talking HealthTech podcast. So it's probably, it sounds like there's even been a bit that's happened across what you're doing since. And I think we spoke back then more from the clinic owner's lens and that perspective, which obviously is still super relevant to here. But what brings you to the Best Practice Summit here today?
So I'm presenting tomorrow, Peter, and I'm presenting on the use and implementation of tech in everyday general practice, right? So based on my experience over the last 6 years of practice ownership, what I've seen work, what I've seen hasn't worked, some of the really personal examples of things that I have messed up over time and things that I had assumed were quite clean and simple, but actually weren't, right? And so hopefully my take will be to just share some really practical and vulnerable insights around how practice owners think about technology.
Interesting. Are there any examples or sneak peeks you can give us of maybe one or two of the key things that might be overlooked or the biggest mistakes that people that people make when they're going into clinic ownership?
Yeah, totally. Thanks, Peter. So I think one of the really interesting things is I hadn't appreciated how important the simple things are, right? So what I mean by that is that you need to make sure that your foundational technology works and is fairly seamless before you start going a bit more complex and into deeper layers of tech. So one of the things that I have learned the hard way after I have managed to frustrate and overwhelm the GPs working in our practice is that printers need to work and they need to work seamlessly, right? And it's a no-brainer, right? As an outsider, you'd say, hey, obviously that is so important. You're using your printers multiple times a day. That should be something that, as a practice owner, you think about. Yeah. But I think for me, going into this deeper journey of trying to lay AI Scribe, for instance, and a whole bunch of other technology, it's easy to overlook the really simple things that just need to work.
Yeah. I tell you what, that lens is a valuable one, not just for clinic owners, but I feel like anyone in the technology community on the vendor side looking at, what new features and tools should we be implementing within our particular solution? And hey, we can inject an AI scribe or an avatar or an agentic something or other in, and won't GPs love this? But, even in my own experience, I guess if you're speaking to investors, that sounds great and they'll get excited about the potential roadmap. But the day-to-day conversations in a clinic, at least from my experience, is, hey, if you've decreased the number of clicks by one or two to get from, prescribing through to, taking a note, then that's a huge deal. Or if you've improved the integration so more fields map directly in, I feel like those boring features make it are more exciting on the clinic owner's side as opposed to here's insert name.ai because that's what they're going to do. But I don't know. What's your take?
Totally. So one of the things that you and I know is that 48% of GPs are either extremely overwhelmed or burnt out. Right? The OACGP Health of the Nation report last year showed us that. I don't know what the numbers are this year, but that's a crazy statistic.
Yeah.
A workforce that is looking after your health on a day-to-day basis, half of those GPs are burnt out. Crazy, right? So I think the really important thing for me is that tech needs to solve real-world problems. And one of those real-world problems it needs to solve is it needs to allow GPs, practice managers, receptionists, nurses, allied health professionals to thrive And the best way to start doing that is just really understanding and talking to them about what their issues are on a day-to-day basis. Right? So what are the things that cause them the most grief? What are the things that really get in the way of them doing their day-to-day work? So if you can understand that and you can have those real conversations with your team, you can actually work on the things that matter in the moment. I think the other thing for me as a practice manager that has a bit of an entrepreneurial lens, as a practice owner has an entrepreneurial lens, is I love tech and I love injecting tech into the practice as well. So, when AI Scribe first came out, my natural inclination was, hey, I love this. This is really cool. I can see that this is going to make the interaction between patients and GPs and care teams so much better.
Yeah.
And I jumped fairly quickly into saying yes to it and just threw it at the practice. And that was the real telling moment when I realised that actually that was not a sensible idea and that I had a whole bunch of other tech issues that needed solving before I should have introduced that tech.
Yeah.
I also didn't go on that journey of understanding whether or not it was a problem for GPs, right? And so for some GPs, they felt that typing, they could do that whilst still engaging with their patients meaningfully, and it wasn't really a problem for them. For other GPs, it was very much, look, we're single finger typing and we can see that this is going to change our lives.
Yeah. There's something in that whole kind of middle ground of that too, because I feel like particularly for you as a clinic owner that's got that interest in technology, it's super important to be across what's coming next and playing with the tools and all of that. But I guess there's a difference between assuming everyone else is that in that kind of ready to just dive in moment. And as soon as you roll something out to a team, you've then got process and all the other kind of day-to-day that you need to factor in. So it's important to be across both, but getting that foundation is super, super important. Lastly, any other advice or tips or things that you hope that attendees might take away from your session here at the Best Practice Summit or just more broadly the event as well?
One of the really important things for me over the last few years has been understanding that care and the implementation of technology, they're not necessarily different things, right? And so the same lens that you take when looking after your patients, you can take when implementing technology as well. There's a whole bunch of products that look amazing on the surface, but they need to embed themselves in the care journey in some meaningful way, right? So what I'll talk about in my presentation tomorrow is that think about the patient journey. Think about where patients first interact with your clinic, and that might be your website, it might be your online booking platform. Think about how that then progresses throughout that interaction as well. So from them booking online to them interacting with your receptionist to then meeting your GP. So really think about what problem you're trying to solve in that journey, in that interaction, and technology should support that.
Yeah.
Don't implement tech for the sake of implementing tech. Actually think meaningfully about the individual and system problem that technology is solving for you.